John Rawls, Theory of Justice by Joshua Lewis, American College of Education. John Rawls was born on February 21st, 1921, in Baltimore, Maryland. He was an award winner for the National Humanities Medal and was presented that by Bill Clinton. He was the son of a prominent Baltimore attorney, and early on in his life, some events that influenced him greatly were the death of his two younger brothers. He had diphtheria at his young age, and one of his younger brothers contracted that from him and died. And then later on, he also had pneumonia, and one of his younger brothers contracted that from him and died. He graduated summa cum laude and earned his doctorate from Princeton. And during that time, his senior paper was on sin and faith. And during this time, he became very religious and very concerned about faith. Later on, he joined the Army in 1943 and was awarded the Bronze Star, and it was during that time that he lost his Christian faith and became an atheist. He was married with 4 children, and he worked at Cornell, Harvard, MIT, and Princeton. He wrote 3 books. Theory of Justice was the first, and this focused on the distributive justice and the competing values of freedom and equality. He also wrote Political Liberalism, which addressed how citizens that are divided by religious and philosophical disagreements could come to agree to live underneath a constitutional democracy. And finally, he wrote The Law of Peoples, which focused on the global issue. Justice as fairness is a lexical priority, and this has the 3 principles: liberty principle, fair equality of opportunity, and the difference principle. And this lexical priority places the liberty principle at the top if there is a conflict between one of the other 3. These principles are designed to function comprehensively, not in single entities, and they're applied to benefit the least privileged or most disadvantaged. So the liberty principle is that every individual has equal rights to basic liberties, and Rawls argued that there are certain rights and freedoms that are more important or basic than others. The equality principle is about distributive justice. So that is taking the wealth that the rich have acquired, when the economy is booming and doing really well, and redistributing it to the less fortunate. The difference principle improves the position of the worst off. So it only permits inequalities that work to the advantage of the worse off. So if things really aren't fair for the rich, that doesn't really count because they're not the worst off. So in this system, the redistribution of wealth is going to diffuse up through society. Some did not agree with his statements and claims. Nozick wrote Anarchy and State and Utopia, and in it he argues that people have the rights to the things they produce. And redistribution is an unjust because it makes some people work involuntarily for others. Hayek also disagreed. He wrote The Morals of Social Justice in 1976, and he said that justice is an excuse for the exercise of the power. Rawls' principles were not really new, but what was new is the way he argued them. He argued them with questioning. And this was one of his biggest, the original position. So on the left is the people that are making decisions for the society, and they're in the original position there, but then there's the wall of ignorance that separates them, so they would not know where they would be after these decisions are made. And if they make those decisions not knowing if they're going to be black, what gender they're going to be, or race, or what wealth they'll have, it would cause them to make decisions fairly because they don't know. what they're going to be after the decisions are made. One example is, that Rawls thought is that if they did base their decisions on the original position theory, then they wouldn't make irrational or unjust decisions, such as not allowing blacks or women to hold public office. The reason is simple. The policymakers would not know if they themselves would be black or women in this new society. These are the references for this presentation.